Hello, 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 hello. Kyron Wheatley here. I'm wearing a fun shirt. Welcome. Welcome to episode 2 of JunkeeGras. Tuesday, here we are. Did you see yesterday? It was really great. Jordan Raskopoulos was here. We had a great time. Today, I'm on my own, broadcasting live from the Facebook Live studios in Sydney. Our second episode. We're super excited to get back into some awesome topics. That's what it says on the screen there, awesome topics. So you know it's true. We're going to meet some cool people and we want you to be a part of it as well. You can jump on, if you've, long-time listener, first-time caller, doesn't matter, too easy, start typing, right? This is the opportunity to ask questions, get involved throughout the episode, each episode, all through the week. Ask whatever you would like, tell us what you think. Today's theme is Where's Your Head At? We're looking at queer people within the music industry and the effects of mental health on LGBTQIA+ people. We'll be speaking to Nick Kelly and Mitch Felchier about all things music related, and Craig from Are You OK? About his relationship to his own mental health, perhaps my relationship to mine, and through the LGBTQIA+ community. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great day. We've also got some glitter beards because it's Mardi Gras without the glitter. So we'll see how those two things can happen because, as we know, Mardi Gras has banned glitter. Yeah. So this show, it's all about getting people educated, which doesn't sound that fun. So we're adding some colour. We're adding some colour and we're adding some reacts as cushions, which is automatically fun. And it's a good opportunity for you to get involved. Jump on that. Really, on the Facebook Live, you can just type in your little questions. You can hit those react things. It'll be great. And to make it more fun, we have a poll. It's the tough question. It's the question that faces us all as queer people. Cher versus Kylie. Who do you think's the best? It's that simple. We are pitting two performers against each other. I think Cher is going to come out on tops because she's actually performed at the party. But it's up to you. You can dive in now. You can hit that poll, and we'll find out the results later on. But first, I would like to welcome our first two guests from the Hit Network, radio host and podcaster Nick Kelly, and FBI radio host and presenter Mitch Felchier. Yay! Welcome. Welcome.
Nice to be here.
That works so much better with a studio audience, don't you find?
I imagined them because I always imagine one wherever I go.
I mean, it's kind of a radio thing, isn't it? We have to imagine a few thousand people listening to us when we're on the radio.
Yeah.
Or in my case, about 3.
Yeah.
I'm in community radio, okay? So let's not...
Well, that's true, actually. We do have the Hit Network.
Commercial radio.
Commercial radio. Speaking of verse FBI, the local Sydney station devoted to new, young Australian Sydney music.
That's it, nailed it on the head. It's very bipartisan.
We're breaking bread here today. I think it's amazing. Like, I was in community radio for 2 or 3 years as well, and that's how I kind of got my start talking about new music and talking about Australian music, doing an Australian music-based radio show.
Yeah.
And I try and kind of still channel that through everything that I do.
Well, we are talking about queer people in music. And I think what's interesting at the moment is that seems to be not just on the community level, but also in pop.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing in terms of the pop world, anyway, in my opinion, is I think, in prior days in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the pop stars to gay men and to queers across the spectrum were these big, powerful pop women. And they're still around. They're very important. Love them to death, obviously. But what we're seeing...
Kylie.
Vote in the poll.
Yes, please vote. Come on, guys. But what we're seeing now is actual queer people, so not heterosexual women, but queer people telling their own stories in pop music and in a much more diverse way. And I think that's what we're really seeing in the past, 5-6 years, queers telling their own stories via pop music.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most amazing things we've seen in probably the last 5 or 6 years is the diversity of queer experiences that we're seeing through pop music. I mean, you've got someone like Janelle Monáe, who's been on the music scene for, a good 10, 15 years now, and is only really starting to talk about her sexuality in the last couple of years. You've now got artists like Troye Sivan, who are obviously doing incredible things and seeping into the mainstream. You've got artists like, one of my favourite albums of last year was Ryan Beatty, a guy from LA, who the whole album was about his sort of first big heartbreak and his first big love. But the way he did it was kind of in a way that wasn't a tragic story of, a bad coming out experience. It was actually a celebration of freedom and a celebration of feeling kind of breezy through his first queer experience. And I think, the little tiny niche, diverse little bits of opinion and thought that are coming through pop music at the moment is a really powerful thing.
And celebratory, I like that, how you mentioned celebratory, because, you have your Sam Smiths, who love to sing a ballad about broken hearts, and that's great. But we've got a lot of pop music these days, which is like celebrating their identity and their queerness in, you know, vivacious kind of ways. Like you see Troye Sivan in his music videos, he's not being the sad sack, being like, oh, it's tough, I came out, la la la. He's like, I'm here, I'm a big old gay, and here's me with a wind tunnel, you know, that sort of stuff.
Singing a song about bottoming.
Exactly. I mean, and that's another thing. We don't have to be so tongue-in-cheek and hidden these days with you know, music and specifically the lyrics. I mean, we have a song about bottoming now, you know?
Multiple. It's amazing.
So you need to send me that playlist. I didn't know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, bops to bottom
playlist.
too.
Bops to bottom too.
Yeah.
Do you find the same thing not just in pop, but also coming up through community radio, like coming up through the new music? Are people in Australian towns around the country writing out and proud music as well?
I think so, yeah. I mean, and again, that's that diversification that we're talking about. It's not just pop as well, you know. There are some great indie lo-fi bands out there that have queer people at the front who are singing. There's a band called Deer Hunter from the States, not from Australia, but lo-fi indie, and it was one of the first bands that was a rock band that I heard using a male singing about male pronouns, you know, which is really important to hear a man sing about he and him in a love song.
I still remember the first time I heard he pronouns sung by a male
Yeah.
artist. It really kind of changed the way I listened to music.
What are you saying? Like people saying they're falling in love with a he
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
song?
yeah. He broke my heart. He did this. He did that. I think
Memories of him.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but I think what it does is it really sort of represents the fact that we can talk openly about, you know, the people that we love and our love experiences. And I mean, it's really interesting you mentioned Deer Hunter because I'm thinking we're here for the Sydney Mardi Gras and thinking just up and down the east coast of New South Wales, Newcastle, Rachel Maria Cox is an amazing non-binary songwriter who's doing amazing stuff with pop music. In Sydney, Sports Bra are an amazing band that are writing really great stuff. And Wollongong, there's a great duo called Cry Club, and the majority of their music is about, you know, bringing queer experiences to the front. So that's just literally within about a 100k stretch up the M1.
So it's happening.
It's happening.
Plus you have Tash Sultana and G Flip as well.
Alex Leahy, people like that. It's amazing.
Sport.
Courtney Barnett,
Oh, yes.
she's crushing it internationally, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, most artists are queer these days.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think
Just trying to think of a non-queer artist at the moment.
I think by 2020, I'd like to have no straight artists.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, you get 2020 climate emission goals. Let's have 2020
That's the
hetero
goal.
musician goals. of zero.
Quotas are really important in this case.
Yeah.
I think, 100% clear by 2020. It's achievable. It's achievable.
Yeah. I think, though, as well, like, you know, because these artists have always been there. You know, Elton John is about to tour the country. These artists have always been there and just, they haven't been allowed to be exactly who they are. Freddie Mercury is another example, very popular at the moment, obviously. Congratulations, Rami Malek. Interesting speech, but we'll leave
that one.
But yeah, I think these artists have always been there. Why do you think, actually, that these days they're out and proud in a way that they couldn't have been in the 70s and the 80s?
Well, I think for like a lot of queer people across the board, there's a lot less fear out there. Freddie Mercury copped untold amounts of backlash for being himself and being such an out there queer person. And a lot of people of that generation would have seen how vilified he was and gone, no, that's not for me. Whereas, you know, these days, Troye Sivan's on the front page of GQ. You know, it's just across society and media, and everyone's embracing queer culture. And that fear is dissipated?
I think it's starting to. It's definitely starting to. We've got so far to go as well. But I look at, you know, non-binary and trans artists like Rachel Maria Cox, like some of the members of Sports Bra, like Miss Blanks, who are really, you know, blazing a trail for Australian songwriters of all walks of life to come to the forefront. And that's a really exciting thing. But I definitely think we need to keep talking about those kinds of artists and supporting them and bringing them to the front.
Well, I think perhaps it is interesting, and I think someone's asked a question to this at the moment, that, you know, there are so many queer artists that perhaps that's not the frontier anymore. And Alana has asked, do you think that the music industry celebrates queerness as a distraction from discussing other parts of a queer artist's identity, like race, that might not be as flashy as...
Yeah, I think intersectionality is definitely a thing that I think the music industry is going to learn at some point. It's starting.
I mean, we are three white men.
Three white cis on a couch talking about music and talking about race and diversity. And that's actually a really important thing to talk about, the fact that, you know, we're still not seeing people of different races and different genders represented as equally as they should be in 2019.
100%.
But I think, you know, what we can do as white cis men is talk about these people, put them on our front covers, put them on our playlists, listen to them, go to their shows, support their music. I think it's a really powerful way to do that.
You two have a bit of power with that with programming. So what do you do to, like, make sure that they are front and centre?
I do a lot of call-outs. because it's often quite hard to find them. Where are they online? Like trying to find out these up and comers. So I think doing lots of call outs, and FBI is quite good at having like an inbox and a place for people to send their music and tag themselves as whatever genre and sort of stuff. So but a lot of it's doing call outs and seeking, trying your hardest to find them out there in Australia.
And not just FBI. I think a lot of the community stations around the country, whether you're in Perth or Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane, do that as well.
Yeah, they do a tremendous job, and in regional parts of Australia as well. People who host music programs, especially new music programs, I think they're doing a really great job with that. In commercial radio, obviously, you know what our playlists are like. They were predominantly male for a while. They're kind of balancing out from a gender perspective, but they're very white, they're very structured. We only play about 100 or so songs, but that's why I started up doing a Sunday show where we actually get an opportunity to choose a bit more of the playlist, and I definitely try and prioritise artists of colour and women and gender non-conforming people to make sure that they get to the front.
Well, Mitch has asked a question to that actually. Who are some of the exciting, lesser-known queer artists?
I love this question. I'm so happy.
Do you want to start?
I'll start. There is an amazing, I talked about them a second ago, but Sports Bra are an amazing band from Sydney.
What do
they talk a lot, using kind of a pop punk sort of ethos. They're very DIY. They're doing everything themselves. They've just finished up a national tour, which they've completely self-funded, stopping off at every Macca's in Australia as well. They make a lot of great pop punk music about queer experience, about gender, about...
about non-binary people specifically. That sort of stuff,
It's amazing. There's a great artist in terms of, we were talking about that sexually charged kind of music. There's a guy named Sam Bluer who's going to be a really big thing this year.
Sam Bluer?
Sam Bluer, B-L-U-E-R.
Sam Blue who?
Bluer.
I barely know us.
What about you, Mitch? What are you finding, especially through community radio?
Well, this is a bloke called Lontalius. He's from New Zealand, but I still, catch all in the Australian-New Zealand kind of queer community. We're all the same, really. It's just a bit of water. And he's been around for a bit, and he's kind of breaking into kind of rotations and playlists, and I've played him a few times. More of your softer spoken indie, bit electro in there.
A little bit. It's a bit R&B. It's a bit pop. He kind of is a genreless artist.
Yeah.
But he talks a lot about the experiences he's had growing up in regional New Zealand.
Yeah, which is very relatable to anyone that's grown up outside of a city and being queer.
And I think that's a really important thing. I really want to see more music and hear more music from artists that don't come from the major cities and have access to recording equipment and studios every 5 minutes around the place, and rehearsal studios. People that are making stuff in their bedrooms in Wagga, in Griffith, in Orange. That's what I want to hear more of.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they will be able to lay claim to the next question from Rob, who was writing in yesterday as well, I think. What's the most iconic gay song of all time?
Oh, boy!
We'll leave on this.
Dancing on My Own by Robin.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Wow, that's a very modern song for...
Yeah. But I mean, this is me. This is speaking from... I don't think this is the greatest one I've ever, but to me it is.
Yeah.
There's something about the lyrics that Robin is the master of singing about sad stuff with the best, most upbeat dance music you've ever heard in your life. And, dancing on my own, that sense of isolation about being in the club but not feeling like, you're part of that or you should be there, that's a really relatable experience and emotion for me. But then again, the fact that it's an absolute bop means you can sing it like this while still at a nightclub or whatever, but the subtext of it still really hits with me.
And I might go the opposite emotion, something that makes me feel pure, unadulterated joy every time I hear it, every time I play it at a gay club. Finally, by CC Peniston.
Okay.
It was here last year for the Laneway Party. I think she played the Laneway Party.
Can you give us some notes? Some notes.
Finally, it has
of course,
happened to me. I won't go any further then. You don't need to hear anymore. I don't know, every time I hear
on Facebook, if you play a song for longer than 15 seconds, we get cut off, and your pitch is perfect.
So
we can't do that for any longer. Look, thank you very much, Nick and Mitch. We absolutely love having you on here.
Thanks for having us, Kyra.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to listening to the radio.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Don't forget our poll, Cher versus Kylie. It is happening right now. Perhaps you think that one of them hold the most important queer song of all time. Maybe. If you do, click on one of them. You can go Cher, who's leading the pack on 0%, or Kylie, trailing on 0%. So get involved in the poll. We'll see if we can get it off 0. I think that's an okay target to shoot for. So click one of those two things and save me from coming back next time we do the poll from it still being 0. Let's do that. Our next guest, perhaps this is appropriate for this moment, is from Are You OK? Which is an organisation that deals with suicide prevention. You might remember the day, Are You OK Day, that comes up once a year. And they're a charity which encourages conversations surrounding mental health. And Craig Mack, who is an ambassador for Are You OK, is here to chat to us about his experience with mental health, perhaps my experience with mental health, within the LGBTQI+ community. So please, welcome Craig. Yay! Thank you, welcome. Thank you for joining us. What do you think is the most iconic queer song of all time? What's at the top of your list? I haven't prepped you for this question.
You haven't. Dancing on My Own. I would have to say, as soon as you said that, I was right there with you.
Yeah.
Yep. And as for Kylie versus Cher, I've got to go with Kylie. I've had dinner with Kylie twice. I know exactly.
Oh my God.
What an adorable little woman that she is, and what a talented little
bundle of energy?
A bundle of joy and energy she is,
I don't think anyone probably needed to ask you, are you okay on those days? I imagine the answer was yes.
Yes, absolutely both times.
But were there other days when people have needed to ask that question?
Absolutely. I think we all have days where we're up and down. I think everybody lives on a roller coaster of life, and we have this whole rainbow of emotions that we live on, and we're supposed to experience all of them up and down, and we all need those people around us on those down days.
Yeah.
Which is why it's such an important thing to talk about.
For sure. I mean, I know I myself have been on the Prozacs and have done all the ups and the downs of these things, and been through it all with the psychologists and with Are You OK and Lifeline and these organisations. What about you? What's your experience with mental health?
So I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16. That was after my first suicide attempt, because that's what you do when you're a teenager.
This is going to get heavy, by the way.
I'm going to try.
We should know that this is going to get heavy, and we're going to go and touch on some things. So
Yes, a bit of a trigger warning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably had a bit of a crazy upbringing with it as a child.
Yeah.
With a mother who was a heroin addicted, drug dealing hooker in an environment you can imagine that leads to. And I didn't have that many friends as a kid.
And this is like while you're trying to come to terms with your own sexuality?
Oh, this was when I was 8.
Oh, this is before that?
Yeah. This was long before that. I was lucky in that respect, in that my mother had boyfriends and girlfriends, and I have 3 uncles who are gay. So that wasn't so much an issue for me. A lot of the other things were. But that, I think what I learnt from that has been able to help me with other friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when I was about 16, I moved in with my uncle and his partner, who were gay, and they'd been together for about 25 years in a really stable, nice relationship. And that's when probably my mental health started falling apart, because I got into this nice, stable, good, healthy environment. And sort of led to one attempt. Kind of went into therapy, wasn't really ready to talk. So got on the meds. And lived life, moved to Sydney and found my life centre stage as a drag queen for 8-9 years, and a go-go dancer, and all the things you do when you're living the gay life. And then at about 24 was probably my second big car crash. That was sort of the main one, and that led me into hospital, where I woke up. I didn't start in hospital. I started at home, and wasn't overly happy that I woke up, admittedly, but that gave me a whole lot of treatment and a whole lot of skills to be able to deal with all of the darkness and all of those negative thoughts and the horrible things that we tell ourselves, and learnt to manage, and that was fantastic.
I imagine you learn from your own experience, but you also learn from other people. Who were around you that helped you through that?
And it's a really good question, and it's part of the reason why Are You OK is so important for me. At that time at 24, and again at 36 when I fell into the same hole, as I was crawling out of them, what I realised was that none of my friends were around, and sort of nobody had realised that suddenly I wasn't centre stage, and that I had disappeared from the world, and I wasn't hearing from friends of do you want to catch up, or do you want to go to the movies? We haven't seen you for a while. And it wasn't until one friend, and this was after my 3rd attempt in my 30s, started reaching out and would just be, oh, hey, we haven't seen you for a while. Do you want to catch up, and we'll have a coffee, we'll go for a walk. And we used to just go for a walk in the park and talk about Star Trek and boys and just all the things that I liked. And just showed that she was around as a friend. And she was probably the first person in all of those times where I felt connected. and it was just having that one person that was there as a friend, that showed you that you were worth something, that you were worth spending time with, that then really helped with the crawling out and the finding myself again. So then a few years ago, because I've been involved with Are You OK for 3 years now, and around the time that the campaign was happening, a friend posted about somebody who had taken their own life. And it was about the 8th or 9th person that I've heard of in about 18 months.
Because that was a hell of a period, wasn't it?
It's a horrible, it's a horrible thing for anybody to go through, and it's so prevalent in the LGBTI community that we have youth who experience, I think it's around 5 times more mental health issues and people who are attempting to take their own lives than in straight communities. So it's such a huge issue.
And nothing like a national discussion about whether they should be allowed to be married or not, whether the value of them as a person, to really help that along.
Yeah, I mean, that was when calls to Lifeline and Q-Life were going up 20 times the volume during that whole period. And there's people who are still feeling the effects of that now, because it's still a discussion that people have, whether we should be allowed.
Yeah.
Which of course we should be allowed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we lost people because of that discussion. And so you're saying that, when the 7th, 8th friend of yours?
Yeah. And that was a friend of a friend. And at that point I thought, I have an experience, I have a story that can definitely help people. So I reached out to Are You OK to look at becoming an ambassador and using kind of my own experiences to get the message out into our community, because there wasn't a voice in there and there wasn't a consistent discussion that was happening. And it doesn't have to be a hard discussion. Like, I see Are You OK as a really important early step and early intervention kind of thing. It doesn't have to be these horrible, scary, dark conversations that people think mental health has to be.
You could be sitting on a couch with a heart emoji
exactly.
talking about it. Like, it's totally fine.
You go from this to
yes,
this. Like,
perfect.
Exactly.
Because I think the interesting thing you said before is connection. Because I think when you're in that world, and when you're in your head like that, it is sort of a sense of being lost, isn't it?
It is.
And not having that connection.
Not having that connection. And that's where, one of the things I talk about a lot is the inner critic and the voice that we give to the inner critic. And I think we give far too much power to this Twitter troll. That's all it is.
I've been questioning this shirt since I got on.
Well, that shirt's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I when you were steaming it before, I was like, I want that shirt.
Okay, we don't need to get the details of what it takes to get a shirt on there. So how do you get that connection? How do you get from, because when you're in that space, it is very hard to reach out. That's the problem, is that we don't know how to reach out. No. So what can you do?
From the person who's experiencing it, and people say all the time, just call me if you need anything, or reach out if you need anything. What I find, particularly when I'm going through it, and I know talking from other people, is that inner critic stands right in our way and says, you're not worth it, or they don't care. Or
they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, it's only a token effort. And that's why, for us, reaching out is so hard. And that's where friends and family are actually taking that step to ask, are you okay? And there's 1,000 ways to ask that question, but are you okay is the simplest one, is so important. Because it's somebody else reaching out and saying, I am actually here, I do actually care, and I do want to listen. And that's it. People get scared of this conversation, I think, because they feel they need to take the responsibility for it, or they don't have the skills to manage it, or they don't have the knowledge or the understanding, and they just think they're going to make it worse. One of the things that I love with Are You OK is the 4 steps that it goes through, and it kind of teaches you how to have that conversation just by asking, by listening to what somebody has to say, and by genuinely listening, putting down phones, like actively listening. And then it comes down to really suggesting things that people can do. And it can be as simple as, I have a thing called a smile jar at home where, whenever anything makes me happy or makes me smile, I write it on a Post-it note and stick it in the jar. And then those days when the critic comes out and tells me that I'm a horrible person and life's awful, I've got this jar of little, I call it jar of joy,
Yeah.
where you can reach out and kind of contradict.
And is that, I mean, Jared's asked here, what does self-care actually mean? Is that what you mean, like doing little things like that?
Yes, self-care, it's different for everybody. And this is where people say, oh, just meditate or go to the gym or...
Sounds so easy.
It sounds so easy. Meditation doesn't work for me. I try. It's one of those things that doesn't.
Yeah.
Self-care is finding...
The self-critic for me really comes to the front when I'm sitting, like, it's sort of,
Yeah.
like, there's this critical voice like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I can't get into meditation. It's just not for me.
No, there's too much noise in my head for it.
Yeah.
But it's finding those things that you need that bring you, and I hate to say this considering it's trending, that bring you joy.
Yeah.
And that bring you happiness, and the things that ground you into life and are about who you are. For some people,
Whether
it is.
that's a tea towel. If that brings you joy,
Exactly.
don't throw it out.
Whether it's about having a shoe addiction, like I kind of do at the moment.
They're great kicks.
Yeah, they're not too bad. Thanks. These arrived yesterday. For some people, it's joining groups like the Sydney Convicts for sports, or it's finding the joy in books, or the reading, or the studying, or meditation, or those things that center yourself and bring yourself back into being you. For some people, it's getting out and talking to their friends and being really social. For others, I tend to withdraw in those kind of darker moments because that's what works.
Yeah.
But self-care is about knowing the things that are good for you, and that help you contradict all of or challenge the darkness that you feel.
What about caring for others? I mean, I think that's part of Are You OK as well. And Mitch has got a question here. If you think a friend might need help with their mental health, what's a sensitive way to raise the subject with them? And I think that sort of Are You OK is very much about the asking of that question.
Yeah, it's very much about the asking. And that's a really simple way to start. And it can be, if somebody is really normally quite extroverted and out quite a lot and very friendly and very bubbly and very happy, and then all of a sudden they're in their shell and they're disappeared. Or the complete opposite, it's kind of a sign that there's something wrong. And there's 1,000 ways to ask that question of, are you okay? And it could be just like, we haven't noticed you around very much. Or I can see that you've been a little bit quiet lately. Like, is there anything going on? Or maybe you can see that you're just not quite being yourself. Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Anything that we can talk about. Then it kind of comes down to the resources that people have and knowing where to go. The Are You OK website is a great place. There's a Find Help tab on that page that has a whole lot of different organisations, which I think Courtney Act is doing a wonderful job on Dancing with the Stars with promoting something like Black Rainbow, like talking about representation and having different organisations out there. She's doing an incredible job by just promoting such a small organisation, but is so important.
Yeah.
But there's those resources on the site. There's a how to ask guide on the Are You OK website as well, which
because I think people would be scared of sitting down with a friend and saying, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
I think it is a strange, particularly for people who have a lot of masculine energy.
Yes.
To be like, right now I'm going to be really emotional with my best mate or something. It's they may not experience. That may not be their friendship. They may be just like going out and getting drinks and having a great time.
That's where, the whole Fearless Friends thing and that's our tagline this year for Mardi Gras, is getting people to overcome that fear, because it doesn't have to be fearful and it doesn't have to be a difficult conversation, but that fear definitely gets in the way. There's a really interesting group of the bros who get into gaming, and there's a whole gaming group of guys who get together and game, and they talk about mental health while they're gaming. And it's so you talk
like
about,
on chat online.
On chat. Yeah. Which when you talk about guys in that real masculine energy, they're really contradicting that, and they're showing that you can actually have these conversations, and they don't have to be full of fear, and they don't have to be full of confrontation. It's just people being fearless in looking after their friends, and looking after themselves as well.
Well, what about with social media too? Because we're on Facebook right now, and that has. That and Twitter and Instagram and all these places have got a rep in the media for being, difficult places to navigate with mental health. But I think they can also be really good places because, well, I know for me, that's where my friends are. Like, I've got friends that I've only met online.
Yep. I have, being a social media strategist and a mental health guy, I have such a double-sided relationship with social media. And it is a double-edged sword, because there are those people who are trolling, and there is a lot of damage that you can go looking for, or that comes to you. I have 5 trolls that come for me regularly. Or there is the flip side of it, where there's access to organisations. There is all your friends that you can access. I have friends all over the world that I can chat to at any time, and they chat to me. I tend to ignore as much as I can the conversations that are coming at me and that are negative. You can fairly easily hit a block button. It's not always that easy, but that's one place to start. The whole FOMO thing plays into a lot of people's emotions as well, where they feel like they're missing out and everybody else is having a wonderful life. And that's where you kind of have to look at social media for what it is. And I think we can get a lot more authentic online and not just post about the shining moments and those incredible nights out and the good times.
Yeah. Well, such as right now, for example.
Such as right now.
Yeah.
But we're also having a really vulnerable, proper conversation at the moment. And I think we can do that more on social and actually reveal kind of who we are holistically, not just that one side of the amazing side of life. But
Well, you did mention FOMO, and perhaps we'll wrap up with this because it is Mardi Gras week, and for a lot of people, that's a big event of the year. It attracts people globally come down for this, but then also there's tension there. People are on alcohol for sure, perhaps more, depending who they are. What are the sort of FOMO? What are the risks and strategies around Mardi Gras and that day for people's mental health?
For them, I think it's knowing your own boundaries, and it's knowing if you are encountering. Firstly, there's after the party and there's after the parade. When you're filtering off to whatever you're doing, I would say don't be walking home alone. I'm going to be in drag, so I definitely won't be walking anywhere alone. Putting yourself at risk.
Yeah.
But it's about knowing what your own boundaries are. If you know that alcohol is a trigger for you, or if other things are a trigger for you, step away from them. Don't do those things that put you in a vulnerable spot. If there are people that make you vulnerable or that put you at risk, kind of stay away from those particular people or those organisations as much as you can. Is one way, and it's sort of having those boundaries for yourself on the night, I think, is one start. But there's this self-awareness behind that to know what your triggers are, and sort of that's where it all starts for me.
What's your drag plan for Saturday?
So I have obviously bright yellow, Are You Okay dress. I've got my heels, which are about that colour, which are same colour as my hair.
Yeah.
And about 3 hours of turning this into into an amazing looking woman.
Beautiful. I cannot wait. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's get an update now on our most important thing of the day, I think. Cher versus Kylie. That's the question. And you've been voting. It's been going up and down. So thank you. Thank you. Kylie leading the pack, 62% against Cher's 38%, which I think means people didn't go to the Cher show. That was honestly, she did spend a lot of time off stage. She had a few costume changes, and also, you get tired. You sing and you dance, you get a little bit tired, you need a little rest. It's like Cher was leaving. It's like, bye, Cher! But anyway, she's there on 38%, Kylie's on 62%, and we have a small portion left of this show. So you can still vote. You can still vote in that poll, and we'll have the full answers at the end. But for now, the question is, how do you make a glitter beard when you're not allowed glitter? Because they've banned glitter from the Mardi Gras this year for environmental reasons. We don't want all those microplastics seeping into Sydney Harbour. Well, we have a friend of Junkie, David K. Davey, who is showing us right now how to make your own bedazzled glitter beard.
Hiya folks, happy Mardi Gras! My name's Davey. I'm a genderqueer YouTuber, and I'm here today to show you how to bedazzle your beard to celebrate this time of year. In recent news, however, it has been announced about the banning of glitter. Plastic glitter has been banned. However, there are many, many, many other alternatives that we can be using to still bring some magic to this time of year. So there are a ton of brands out there for biodegradable glitter. So I picked a few of these up for a couple of bucks, maximum I think one was like 10 for this one. So they're pretty cheap and cheerful, and give you a very similar effect. So for this particular beard transformation today, we're going to be using just a little touch of this particular glitter, which is called Deep Rose, and that one is from Glitter Solstice. Also from In Your Dreams, which this one is called Aqua Trip. Some of the other brands that I've seen online are like Three Mamas, Glitter Girl, Project Glitter, you know, so there's quite a few. And let's use some hair chalk. So this hair chalk, it's like a minty one and a lilac one. I picked these up from Priceline for a couple of bucks, easy peasy. And then just for some adhesives, I'm going to be using a little tiny touch of hairspray, maybe a little bit of lash glue, we'll see how we go. So let's start with this. So we're going to go ahead and take that, and I want to put that, push down, and paint it on. Then we're going to pop some purple along the sides. Look, I get it, girl. Glitter runs in our veins as queer people. I know that it's part of our culture, but you know what? It's great to see organisations like this being environmentally responsible, and there are so many other options out there. All right, now on to the glitter. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of this glitter, Aqua Trip, and we're going to pop that on. Now, how am I going to stick that? I think I'm going to give it a crack with some hairspray. So, a little bit of that, mouth firmly closed, and I actually reckon that hairspray sticks it on pretty well. So, you could have used lash glue, but don't. Just use hairspray. Now, I'm going to be going and using the Deep Rose glitter, and I'm just going to spread it on top. And I'm just sort of pushing it in just down flat against the skin. The hairspray should hold it there fine. So there you have it, folks. So if you've got a beard, get your glitter on. Happy Mardi Gras.
Hi, welcome back. That was too easy. That's actually the first time I've seen that. Thank you very much for that tutorial. And now you know just how quickly you could do it. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Oh, that was just like I watched it, I did it,
Amazing.
and bingo mango.
That's the best tutorial I've ever seen.
Phenomenal.
Also, yours a stick-on. Why did we have to do mine for real? I am covered in glitter. Like, every time I breathe, it just like flies off my face.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Don't look at the answers. Don't look at the scores. Who do you think won the poll?
Kylie.
I'm going Kylie.
I'm going Kylie as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Kylie, 64% share, 36%. Do you think she's in the country? Do you think she's going to... This is the question that faces us every single year. Is she going to be performing at the party?
We've all heard rumours.
We have.
But on a night like this, there's always going to be a surprise.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I would go wow if it turned up to the party.
Yeah,
wow,
for
wow,
sure.
wow, wow.
Oh, look,
But there's a name phrase issue.
Anything is possible. It's spinning around all night long. You
Yeah.
know? You never know.
She really has so many songs.
She does.
Well, thank you. We should wrap this up because it's going to take me an hour to get rid of. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. We've loved hearing your thoughts as well. So please write in tomorrow. We'll be back at 4 o'clock. We'll see you then live on Facebook with Junkie. Bye!
Wow.
Covered in it.